When billionaire CEO James Wellington hired Emma Rodriguez as his executive assistant, he thought he'd found the perfect secretary. But Emma has been living a leer. Real name is Sarah Chen. She was sent by a dangerous criminal organization to destroy everything James has built. Greetings, fellow dreamers. This tale is filled with love, secrets, and a twist you'll never forget. Step into the tale. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Wellington. Enterprises like bullets against bulletproof glass. Emma Rodriguez pressed her palm against the cold surface, watching the city blur into watercolor streaks 30 floors below. The storm had come from nowhere, just like everything else that had turned her life upside down in the past month. The merger documents are ready for your signature, Mr. Wellington. James looked up from his mahogany desk, his green eyes catching the lightning that split the sky behind Emma. She had been his executive assistant for 4 weeks now, and still, every time he looked at her, something twisted in his chest. Something dangerous and completely unprofessional. Emma. His voice was rough, strained. Close the door. She hesitated, her hand frozen on the brass handle. In all their late nights together, all their shared dinners disguised as business meetings, he had never asked her to close the door. The glass walls of his office had always remained a barrier between them and the whispers that would surely follow. Is everything all right? Just close it, please. The soft click of the door echoed like a gunshot in the silence. Emma turned, her back pressed against the wood. And for the first time since she'd started working here, she looked truly vulnerable. Her usually perfect composure cracked, revealing something raw underneath. I got a call this morning, James said, standing slowly. From my private investigator. Emma's face went white. James, I can explain, can you? He moved around the desk, each step deliberate. Can you explain why Emma Rodriguez doesn't exist? Why there's no record of you before 3 years ago? Why your social security number belongs to someone who died in a car accident in Ohio? The thunder crashed overhead and Emma flinched as if she'd been struck. Her breathing became shallow, panicked. You had me investigated? I investigate everyone who gets close to me. It's how I stay alive in this business. His voice was cold now, the warmth she'd grown accustomed to completely gone. The question is, who the hell are you really? Emma's hands trembled as she reached up to remove the small silver necklace from around her neck. Hidden beneath her blouse, James had never seen it before. She held it out to him, and he could see it wasn't a necklace at all, but a USB drive. My real name is Sarah Chen, and I've been sent here to destroy you. The words hung in the air between them like a death sentence. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside James's office, everything had gone perfectly, devastatingly still. James stared at the drive in her outstretched hand, his mind racing through every conversation they'd had, every moment of connection he'd thought was real. 3 years, he said quietly. You've been planning this for 3 years? No? Her voice broke. I was planning it for 3 years. But then I met you, and everything changed. And now, I don't know what the hell I'm doing anymore because I wasn't supposed to fall. It's in love with you. The confession shattered something inside James's chest, but he couldn't tell if it was his heart breaking or his last wall of defense crumbling. He reached out, his fingers brushing hers as he took the drive. What's on it? Emma's eyes filled with tears she'd been holding back for weeks. Everything you need to know about who I really am, and everything that's going to happen to you if we don't figure out how to stop it. Lightning illuminated the office in stark white, and in that flash, James saw not the woman who had been deceiving him, but the woman who had just handed him the weapon to destroy her. Sarah, he said her real name like a prayer. What have you done? The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Wellington Enterprises like bullets against bulletproof glass. Emma Rodriguez pressed her palm against the cold surface, watching the city blur into watercolor streaks 30 floors below. The storm had come from nowhere, just like everything else that had turned her life upside down in the past month. The merger documents are ready for your signature, Mr. Wellington. James looked up from his mahogany desk, his green eyes catching the lightning that split the sky behind Emma. She had been his executive assistant for 4 weeks now, and still, every time he looked at her, something twisted in his chest, something dangerous and completely unprofessional. Emma. His voice was rough, strained. Close the door. She hesitated, her hand frozen on the brass handle. In all their late nights together, all their shared dinners disguised as business meetings, he had never asked her to close the door. The glass walls of his office had always remained a barrier between them and the whispers that would surely follow. Is everything all right? Just close it, please. The soft click of the door echoed like a gunshot in the silence. Emma turned, her back pressed against the wood. And for the first time since she'd started working here, she looked truly vulnerable. Her usually perfect composure cracked, revealing something raw underneath. I got a call this morning, James said, standing slowly. From my private investigator. Emma's face went white. James, I can explain, can you? He moved around the desk, each step deliberate. Can you explain why Emma Rodriguez doesn't exist? Why there's no record of you before 3 years ago? Why your social security number belongs to someone who died in a car accident in Ohio? The thunder crashed overhead and Emma flinched as if she'd been struck. Her breathing became shallow, panicked. You had me investigated? I investigate everyone who gets close to me. It's how I stay alive in this business. His voice was cold now, the warmth she'd grown accustomed to completely gone. The question is, who the hell are you really? Emma's hands trembled as she reached up to remove the small silver necklace from around her neck. Hidden beneath her blouse, James had never seen it before. She held it out to him, and he could see it wasn't a necklace at all, but a USB drive. My real name is Sarah Chen, and I've been sent here to destroy you. The words hung in the air between them like a death sentence. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside James's office, everything had gone perfectly, devastatingly still. James stared at the drive in her outstretched hand, his mind racing through every conversation they'd had, every moment of connection he'd thought was real. 3 years, he said quietly. You've been planning this for 3 years? No? Her voice broke. I was planning it for 3 years. But then I met you, and everything changed. And now, I don't know what the hell I'm doing anymore because I wasn't supposed to fall. I was in love with you. The confession shattered something inside James's chest, but he couldn't tell if it was his heart breaking or his last wall of defense crumbling. He reached out, his fingers brushing hers as he took the drive. What's on it? Emma's eyes filled with tears she'd been holding back for weeks. Everything you need to know about who I really am, and everything that's going to happen to you if we don't figure out how to stop it, lightning illuminated. The office in stark white, and in that flash, James saw not the woman who had been deceiving him, but the woman who had just handed him the weapon to destroy her. Sarah, he said her real name like a prayer. What have you done? Victor Chen's voice slithered through the speaker like smoke through cracks in a wall. James had imagined this moment for 15 years, but hearing the voice of his father's killer felt like swallowing glass. Sarah, darling, you sound tense. I hope Mr. Wellington isn't working you too hard. Sarah's knuckles were white around the phone. Everything is proceeding according to plan, Father. The final phase will begin tomorrow. Wonderful. And how is our dear James? Still playing the grieving son, building monuments to a father who was weaker than he ever realized? James stepped closer to the phone, rage coursing through his veins like acid. Sarah caught his arm, her grip desperate, warning him to stay silent. He suspects nothing. Sarah lied smoothly. He trusts me completely. Victor's laugh was like broken glass. Of course he does. Men like James Wellington think their money makes them untouchable. But they're just children, playing with their father's toys. Speaking of which, I have a surprise for you both. The line went quiet, except for the sound of footsteps and a door opening. James Victor's voice was closer now, as if he'd picked up the phone again. I know you're listening. Did you really think I wouldn't have my daughter's phone monitored? Did you think I wouldn't know the exact moment she betrayed me? Sarah's face went pale as death. Father, I quiet little weapon. You've served your purpose, but I'm afraid your usefulness has expired. There was the sound of movement. Then Victor's voice became clearer, more intimate. James, I want you to listen very carefully to what happens next. Consider it a preview of your own fate. The sound that came through the speaker made Sarah scream, and James's blood turned to ice. A gunshot, close and sharp, followed by the heavy thud of a body hitting the floor. Unfortunately, that wasn't Sarah, Victor said conversationally. That was Marcus Webb, your head of security. He's been trying to warn you about suspicious activity in your building for the past hour. I'm afraid he won't be making any more calls. James grabbed his desk phone and dialed security. Deadline. Now, before we continue this family reunion, I need Sarah to do one last thing for Daddy. There's a little device in your purse, darling. The black box I gave you for emergencies. I need you to activate it now. Sarah was shaking so hard she could barely stand. She reached into her purse with trembling hands and pulled out a small electronic device that looked like a garage door opener. What does it do? James demanded. It's a signal jammer, Sarah whispered. It cuts all communications in and out of the building. No phones, no internet, no security systems. Very good, Sarah. Now press the button like a good daughter. Sarah looked at James with tears streaming down her face. If I don't, he'll kill everyone in this building. The night security staff, the cleaning crew has people positioned throughout the building. And if you do, then we're trapped in here with him. Victor's voice purred through the speaker. Tick-tock, children. I'm a patient man, but my associates are getting restless. And they do so, enjoy their work. James snatched the device from Sarah's hands. You want to play games, Victor? Let's play. He pressed the button. Immediately, the lights in the office dimmed as backup power kicked in. The subtle hum of electronics died, leaving only the sound of rain against the windows and their own ragged breathing. Excellent, Victor said before the line went completely dead. The silence that followed was deafening. James moved to his desk and pulled out a key from beneath a hidden panel. He unlocked a drawer and removed a Glock 19, checking the magazine with practiced efficiency. You have a gun in your desk? Sarah asked. My father taught me that in this business, paranoia isn't a character, flaw, it's a survival skill. He handed her a second weapon from the same drawer. Do you know how to use this? Sarah's hand steadied as she gripped the pistol. The scared woman was gone, replaced by someone harder, more dangerous. Victor made sure I knew how to kill with anything I could get my hands on. Good, because we're about to find out how. Well, he trained you, the elevator chimed from the hallway outside. Then another, and another. They're coming up from multiple floors, James said. Standard tactical sweep. Sarah moved to the window and looked down. There are cars surrounding the building. At least 20 men, maybe more. He's not just here to kill us. He wants to make a statement. Complete the destruction of the Wellington legacy in the same building where it started. Sarah turned from the window, and James saw something new in her eyes, a cold, calculating fury that reminded him she was Victor Chen's daughter. James, there's something else you need to know. Something I haven't told you yet. The sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway, getting closer. What? The reason Victor killed your father wasn't just business? It was personal. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Your father discovered that Victor had been embezzling money from their joint ventures to fund human trafficking operations. Children, James. Your father was going to expose him. The footsteps stopped directly outside the office door. So Richard Wellington had to die, Sarah continued, and Victor spent 15 years planning the perfect revenge. Destroying his son with his own daughter? A voice called from the hallway, accented and cold. Mr. Wellington, Ms. Chen, we know you're in there. Come out with your hands visible, and this will be quick. James and Sarah positioned themselves on either side of the door, weapons ready. There's one more thing, Sarah said urgently. The reason I really decided to betray Victor wasn't just because I fell in love with you. What then? Because I found out what he's planning to do with Wellington Enterprises once you're dead. He's going to use your company's resources and reputation to expand his trafficking network globally. Thousands of children, James. The door handle turned slowly. So when this is over, Sarah whispered, if we survive this, you need to know that saving those kids is worth more than my life. And if it comes down to a choice between me and stopping him, the door exploded inward in a shower of splinters and smoke. The first gunman through the door never saw James coming. A single shot dropped him before he could raise his weapon. Sarah moved like liquid mercury, taking down the second attacker with 2 precise shots to the chest. But there were more coming. The sound of boots thundering up the stairwell echoed like a death march. The emergency exit, James shouted over the gunfire now erupting from the hallway. My father built a private escape route from his office. They fought their way across the room. Using overturned furniture as cover, Sarah moved with deadly precision, each shot finding its target with the efficiency of someone trained from childhood to kill. But James could see they were outgunned and outnumbered. Behind the massive oil painting of Richard Wellington, James revealed a hidden panel. His thumb pressed against a biometric scanner, and the wall slid away to reveal a narrow corridor. It leads to a private elevator that goes directly to the parking garage, James explained as they slipped into the passage. My father was paranoid about corporate espionage. As they moved through the dimly lit corridor, Sarah grabbed his arm. James, stop. We need to talk before we go any further. We don't have time. Listen to me. Her eyes were fierce, desperate. Victor isn't just here to kill us. He's here to offer you a deal. James stared at her. What kind of deal? He knows about the evidence I gave you. He knows you could destroy him with what's on that drive. Sarah's voice broke. But he also knows you love me. He's going to offer to let me live if you destroy the evidence and walk away. And I need you to promise me you won't take it. No matter what he does to me, no matter how much I scream or beg, you cannot let him win. Too many lives depend on stopping him. James pulled her close, his forehead touching hers. I'm not losing you. Not now. You might not have a choice. The elevator at the end of the corridor chimed, and the doors opened. But instead of emptiness, Victor Chen stepped out, flanked by 2 armed men. He was smaller than James had imagined. It's almost ordinary looking except for his eyes cold and calculating like a predator, evaluating prey. Ah, the secret passage. Richard mentioned it once when he was drunk on scotch and guilt. He always did talk too much when he was afraid. Behind them, the sounds of Victor's men searching the office grew louder. They were trapped between 2 forces, with nowhere to run. Hello, James, Victor said pleasantly. You look so much like your father. Especially around the eyes when you're terrified. You murdered him. I eliminated a threat to my business interests. Richard was weak. He let his conscience interfere with profit. Victor's gaze shifted to Sarah. Unlike my daughter, who I trained to be everything he wasn't. Sarah raised her gun, pointing it directly at her father's heart. It's over, Victor. James has everything, the evidence, the recordings, the bank records. The FBI will have enough to bury you and your entire organization. Victor smiled. Will they? Because? I don't think James uploaded anything to the FBI. I think he's been too busy falling in love with you to think clearly about his next move. The old man's perception was terrifyingly accurate. Which brings us to my proposal, Victor continued. James, you're going to destroy that evidence and transfer control of Wellington Enterprises to me. In return, Sarah lives. Refuse, and I kill her slowly while you watch. Then hunt down every person you've ever cared about. Don't listen to him, Sarah said fiercely. He'll kill us both anyway. Actually, no. I need James alive to legitimize the transfer of assets. And I need Sarah alive to ensure his continued cooperation. Victor's smile was poisonous. She simply returned to being my weapon, properly motivated this time. James felt something breaking inside his chest. The choice Victor was offering wasn't really a choice at all. It was a torture device designed to destroy him no matter what he decided. There is a third option, Victor added casually. Sarah could simply shoot you, James, and return to me voluntarily. Her betrayal would be forgiven, and Wellington Enterprises would still become mine through inheritance laws and careful manipulation. Sarah's gun never wavered from Victor's chest, but James saw her hands trembling. I would never, wouldn't you? Victor's voice was hypnotic, commanding. Remember who raised you, daughter. Remember who saved you when your mother died. Remember that everything you are, everything you know how to do, comes from me. Stop it, James said. She's killed for me before, James. Many times. Did she tell you about the banker in Switzerland? The journalist in Prague? They all trusted her too, right up until the moment she put bullets in their hearts. Sarah's breathing became rapid, panicked. The psychological conditioning Victor had subjected her to was reasserting itself under his voice, his presence. "I won't do it," she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. "Of course you will. Because if you don't, I'll make sure James dies anyway, just much more slowly. And then I'll find his sister in Seattle, his cousin in Chicago, his college roommate in Boston. Everyone he's ever loved will pay for your defiance." The gun in Sarah's hand began to shake violently. "Sarah, look at me," James said urgently. "You're not his weapon anymore. You're your own person." But Victor was relentless. "Turn around, daughter. Point the gun at James. Do what you were trained to do." And slowly, horribly, Sarah began to turn. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, James. I can't fight it. I can't fight him." The gun was now pointed at James's chest, and he could see the war raging behind. Sarah's eyes loved battling against years of psychological manipulation and conditioning. "That's better," Victor purred. "Now pull the trigger and come home to Daddy." But instead of shooting James, Sarah did something no one expected. She turned the gun on herself, pressing the barrel against her own temple. "If I'm dead, you lose your leverage over both of us," she said, her voice suddenly clear and strong. "And James will have no reason not to destroy you." Victor's composure cracked for the first time. "Sarah, don't be foolish. Put the gun down." "I love you, James," she said, looking directly into his eyes. "And love means making the hard choice. This ends with me." Her finger tightened on the trigger. "Sarah, no?" James lunged forward just as Sarah's finger pulled the trigger. The sound of the gunshot exploded in the narrow corridor, but James's hand had knocked her arm upward at the last second. The bullet shattered the ceiling light, plunging them into darkness broken only by the emergency lighting's red glow. In the chaos that followed, Victor screamed orders to his men while James and Sarah fought desperately in the confined space. James heard Sarah cry out in pain, been hit, though not by her own bullet. One of Victor's men had shot her in the shoulder as she fell. "Get them both alive." Victor's voice was furious, desperate. "I need them both." James dragged Sarah into the elevator, slamming the emergency close button as bullets sparked off the metal doors. The car began its descent toward the parking garage. But he knew they only had moments before Victor's men found another way down. "I'm bleeding pretty badly," Sarah gasped, pressing her hand to her shoulder. "James, you have to leave me here and run. Not happening." He tore off his shirt and pressed it against her wound. "We're getting out of this together. You don't understand. Even if we escape tonight, Victor will never stop hunting us. He has resources, connections, people in law enforcement. The evidence on that drive won't be enough to stop him permanently." The elevator chimed as they reached the parking level. James helped Sarah to his car, but as they approached it, he stopped. The tires had been slashed, and the hood was open. The engine had been destroyed. "They've been planning this for hours," Sarah said weakly. "Every exit, every escape route." Behind them, they could hear the sound of footsteps in the stairwell. Victor's men had found another way down. "The storm," James said suddenly. "The rain is so heavy, the security cameras can't see clearly. If we can make it to the street, James?" Sarah grabbed his arm with her good hand. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have said earlier." The footsteps were getting closer. "The USB drive I gave you, it doesn't just have evidence of Victor's crimes. It has something else. Bank access codes, cryptocurrency wallets, offshore accounts. Everything Victor has stolen over the past 20 years, all the money from his trafficking operations." "How much?" $800 million. Money that could be returned to victims, used to shut down trafficking networks. Save thousands of children. Sarah's eyes were bright with fever and determination. "But only if someone with legitimate business credentials transfers it. Someone like you." The stairwell door burst open, and Victor's men poured into the parking garage. "There's an internet cafe 3 blocks north," Sarah continued urgently. "If you can get there, You can upload everything to the FBI and transfer the money to victim advocacy groups before Victor can stop you. Sarah. But I can't make it 3 blocks. I'm losing too much blood. She looked at him with heartbreaking clarity. This is the choice, James. You can try to save me and let Victor escape with his money and his network intact. Or you can let me go and save thousands of people you'll never meet. The sound of running footsteps echoed through the concrete structure. I won't leave you. Yes, you will. Because that's what love actually means. It means choosing something bigger than yourself. Sarah reached up and touched his face. My father turned me into a weapon, but you helped me remember I could be something else. Someone who protects instead of destroys. Victor's voice echoed from across the parking garage. James. I can see you hiding behind those cars. Come out, and we can still make a deal. Sarah pressed something into James's hand, keys to a motorcycle parked in the corner. It's my bike. Victor doesn't know about it. Sarah. Please go now, before I change my mind and beg you to stay. James looked into her eyes and saw not the broken weapon Victor had created, but the strong, brave woman she had chosen to become. He kissed her once, desperately, tasting salt from both their tears. I love you, he whispered. I know. That's how I know you'll make the right choice. James ran for the motorcycle, his heart shattering with every step. Behind him, he heard Sarah stand up, heard her voice ring out clear and strong across the parking garage. Victor, I'm here. Come and finish what you started. The sound of gunfire erupted behind James as he started the motorcycle. He didn't look back, couldn't look back as he rode into the storm-soaked night. 3 hours later, sitting in a fluorescent-lit internet cafe, James uploaded terabytes of evidence to the FBI, Interpol, and every major news organization in the world. The money transfers took longer, but by dawn, $800 million had been distributed to organizations fighting human trafficking across 6 continents. Victor Chen was arrested trying to flee the country. The Crimson Syndicate's network collapsed within days as law enforcement agencies across the globe coordinated the largest anti-trafficking operation in history. 6 months later, James stood in a small cemetery in Queens, placing white roses on a grave marked Sarah Chen, beloved daughter. The headstone was simple, but the inscription below her name read, She chose love over fear. The FBI had found her body in the parking garage, along with 3 of Victor's men. She had fought until the end, buying James the time he needed to escape and complete their mission. James touched the cold marble and whispered, over 3,000 children rescued so far. I thought you'd want to know. A young woman approached Detective Maria Santos, who had been leading the task force that dismantled Victor's network. The trial starts next week, she said quietly. Your testimony will put him away forever. James nodded but didn't turn away from the grave. She saved more lives in her last few hours than most people save in a lifetime, Detective Santos continued. That's quite a legacy. She saved me too, James said. In every way that matters. As he walked away from the cemetery, James felt the weight of Sarah's sacrifice and the responsibility it carried. He had built a new foundation with Wellington Enterprises Zone, dedicated to fighting the very evils that had destroyed both their families. It wasn't the life he had planned, but it was the life Sarah had died to make possible. In the distance, thunder rumbled across the city, but this storm was different. It carried the promise of rain that would wash things clean and help new life grow from ground that had been scorched by fire. James walked into that storm, carrying Sarah's memory and their shared purpose forward into whatever came next. The end.